I love this case study because it perfectly uses our playbook to the T. So, this concept is for our client Groom, and they are on this incredible mission to rid the world of plastic shampoo bottles. And they're competing against, as you can imagine, the shampoo industry is a multi billion dollar industry, and they are a startup that is competing against that group. And so it's a really bold mission. It's a really important mission. It's less to do with marketing and has so much more to do with the fact that our planet needs less plastic. So we were very drawn to this opportunity. But effectively, what they've done is they've eliminated the need for a plastic bottle because they've invented or developed a soap shampoo. So it gets sent to consumers in a paper package, which is of course biodegradable, and then you can use the shampoo. You can get the same benefits as you get from liquid shampoo, and it's eco-friendly, and of course you don't pollute the world with more plastic. Now, most people have never heard of a soap shampoo. And so the challenge was we're not really selling something that is recognizable, so we need to come up with a very clever way of communicating what the product does to the buyer. One of the other challenges was that how do we get them to buy for the first time? So the client did something I think very innovative, which is they will give the first bar away for free. So you come to the website, you get the first bar, and the idea is, and they know this because it's their product. They know that when you try the product, you'll want to come back and buy more. So it's a very good low risk strategy. The challenge was how can we then apply principles of buyer psychology to improve conversion rates of a product that is already free, which is a very interesting challenge. So we understood where the traffic was coming from. We knew this was cold traffic. We knew it was coming directly to this landing page, and our job was to figure out a way to communicate with these buyers and tell them a story that will get more of them to want to pull the trigger. So what we're looking at right now is the control. So they have this messaging on top, and they have this is the mobile version. This is where bulk of the traffic was coming. The offer is mentioned up front, and then they're kind of showing a bunch of their products, the soaps that are available, and then there are 8 reasons to buy the product. So this is their copy. Now, I obviously will not be able to go through all of the changes that we made, but let me tell you something really fundamental. There were 2 core aspects of our strategy, and I think this is where the genius of this idea comes from. So the first thing was that, of course, we could have gone down the road of redesigning the page and changing the layout. That is very expensive, very time consuming, and very, prone to, there's a risk involved. So our thought was, hey, what if we were to make dozens, we literally made dozens of micro improvements in the copy without changing the layout. Let me show you what I mean by that. So, for example, we do this thing, we call this process called annotation, where we are literally looking at every single pixel, every single word on the page. So for example, we looked at this and we said, hey, we don't actually need this. So let's remove this because it's already a free offer. It's just taking real estate. Then we looked at this and we said, you know what, on desktop, this looks good, but on mobile, this doesn't look so good. So let's kind of come up with 2 versions of the banner. One is for mobile, one is for desktop. Then we looked at this and we said, hey, we can change the phrasing over here, or maybe we can have a little call to action over here that shows people what's unique about, this offer, because we really wanted to emphasize the offer. Similarly, we kind of looked at all of this, like every single element, and we made micro improvements website, but we didn't change the layout of the page. This is a really key point. So we made, I would say, at least 24 improvements in the copy, but we didn't change the layout of the page. This was important. But we know there are 2 types of people that are coming to this page. There are skimmers, and skimmers want to quickly read what the copy is saying, what our sales pitch is, and make a conclusion. And for them, the page layout was beautiful because it was highly visual. It communicated what the product does. However, there were also diggers who were coming to this page. Now, diggers are seeking more information. They want to really understand what the product does. They are kind of like do-it-yourself type people. So we had to, for them, come up with a story that would tell them in detail what the product does. Well, how do you reconcile these 2 groups on the page? In order to do that, we've come up with a very clever technique, and I'm going to show it to you in this case study. And so you'll also be able to see how we do it. So anyway, so this is the page. Now let's kind of go to the layout that we tested. This is what we tested. So you'll notice we got rid of this. You'll notice that we've got a different layout over here. It's much bigger. If you look at what we have over here, it's much smaller. We wanted to really dramatize what the product did, and so we brought it out for mobile, and then for desktop it actually is a different layout as well. And then it kind of reinforces the sales pitch over here. You'll notice we added a little button over here. So it says claim your free shampoo bar, and then there's this one condition. When you click on it, we actually show you a sales pitch that talks about why we're giving this away for free. So I'm not going to, again, like I said, I'm not going to go through all of this, but you'll notice over here, what we've done is, this is the key thing about this annotation approach, is that what we do is we read every line and we say, hey, could there be a scenario where this was not sufficient? So for example, it says try one of our zero plastic shampoo bars for free, but then we were going to ask them to pay for shipping. That's because we couldn't also give free shipping. Instead of just having that statement, we actually made it a clickable element, and we kind of asked the buyer like, hey, do you agree with this? And we kind of said our core value is fairness. And the idea here is what we've done is we are essentially, instead of just having a statement, we are actually kind of having a statement and giving the buyer more context. And what we learn is that when the buyer has more context, they are much more likely to buy. Similarly, we made tons of changes. Over here, we made a change. Now we're showing our award-winning awards. We didn't just use the word award-winning. We wanted to show it. And then we're saying, why is it free? And when you click on it, we explain why it's free. Like I said, we've made tons of micro changes. But the key thing we did was we included a button called the whole story. And this is designed for people who are diggers. But we did something very clever. We mentioned over here, and then we mentioned it over here. I think we mentioned it in 2 locations maybe. I think maybe even 3 locations. Let me see. No, I think 2 locations. And here's the clever part. We applied this button conditionally. What that means is that if you click on any one of the buttons that says whole story, we then hide the other buttons. Why we did this was because we wanted to maximize the visibility of this sales page. But if someone interacts with it, then we wanted to get out of the way. Now let's look at what happens when you click on the whole story. This is where it kind of gets really interesting. So when you click on it, we show a full screen lightbox, and we are now free to roam about and really, really tell our story. We talked about you're in the minority, so we put a headline that gets people to want to read more. We talked about the fact that, shampoos are bad. We talked about we need your help, so we can rid the world of these plastic bottles. We made it focused on the British audience because that's our target audience. We used the keyword. We talked about the fact that change is hard, and we understand that change is hard. And then we kind of added a link here. If you click on it, it expands out and it tells you more about this detail. So we want users to interact with us, not just be a passive thing. And then we kind of talked about the fact that when consumers learn new information, they change habits. So we used the example of white bread and how the sales of white bread have fallen because people have learned something new. Then we talked about social proof and saying, look, a phenomena is taking hold. What I would recommend is you can pause the video if you want to read specifically the changes that we made. But then we talked about David versus Goliath and talking about the fact that the big industry people are not going to change their behavior. Then we talked about how we are staying ahead by constantly improving the product. We talked about I can't scroll lower because of the layout of the page. Let me just actually go back. Actually, let me make this even smaller. There we go. We talked about environmental impact. And then the end of this, unfortunately, I will not be able to show this to you because it's being blocked over here. But we asked, does this make sense? This is a genius idea. So we kind of show them a sales pitch. And then at the bottom of it, we're saying, do you agree with us? And by collecting, now we not only do we have sales data, we also have data about people who said yes and people who said no. Now imagine if, let's say 60% of people said they disagree with us. Well, now I know my copy sucks and I need to go back and rewrite the copy. So by having a simple feedback mechanism, I'm actually collecting qualitative data on what is happening and my consumers' preferences. So this idea is very close to my heart because it perfectly uses our playbook. And as you can see from the results, we were able to meaningfully improve conversion rates. That's what the case study is all about.